Must be Thursday. Family Matters with Kevin Petersen.
It's pink shirt day, evidently. I like it. I like it.
I just like following you.
No way, man. This is all you, baby.
I love living in Kevin Peterson's shadow. But
oh, God.
how was life in Florida?
Oh, it's nice. It's really warm today. It's like 80 degrees. You know. How are things in Nashville?
Well, Nashville finally got its act together. So we it was very cold last week. But I was in your home state for a few days last week out in Colorado.
With Keith.
So I welcome the 60, 65 degree Nashville weather. So we'll keep it going. So, life is grand. Life is grand.
How did your event go?
I think it went well. That's the thing. You just never know. You never know if it was good or went well or not. I mean, I guess the reviews and the surveys at the end were very informative and thumbs up. So I guess that's all we can go by.
Good.
So
good for you. Glad to hear it, man. That's great. You guys make a good team.
Well, it's mainly Keith. I just, another shadow I love living in. So I'm a shadow character. So you guys just keep, anyone with a big shadow, I will pitch a tent and live in that shadow. So, but the segue between the two, I think within the intervention training and training new interventionists, and the questions they had, and then there's also a question here from a family is I want to go, kind of deeper into, I think despite a lot of people's, this show for one, kind of reminder that boundaries aren't tough love or ultimatums, but we have a question and kind of just in general, the question about, how do I know when to put boundaries in and how do we know, what boundaries? Is it something that you guys tell us to say, or is it something we come up with? Can you kind of just go into the art of setting boundaries?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, my style is that there are 3 categories of boundaries. The first one is drugs and alcohol. And we have to start with what's the goal, right? What's the family's goal? And I'm going to take it for granted if the families come to us, their goal is to help the person quit using drugs and alcohol for a certain amount of time, if not permanently. So I'm going to assume that's where we're headed. Okay. So that's number 1. That's the first boundary. And it's very straightforward. No drugs, no alcohol. And then every boundary has to have some sort of accountability tied to it. So we're going to do drug testing and breathalyzing, right? And then if there's not consequences and rewards attached to it, it doesn't matter. It's all for nothing. So you have to be able to say, starting today, we're going to do drug and alcohol testing on a regular basis. And if you can't pass them, if you're testing positive, then we're going to set up a series of consequences, and we can talk about what those are. You can't just say, like you said, the tough love, get out, party's over. That doesn't work. You have to say, okay, we're gonna get for this time frame, whatever that time frame is, we're going to do X, Y, Z. And that's something we would do individually with each family. But the families hold the leverage, and you make it clear. And then the second boundary is about becoming self-supporting and solving. And again, we're going to assume, because I think what you and I tend to work with are these families where the client or the individual is very dependent upon them financially, whether they're living with them or not. Someone's paying a bill or solving a problem. So, and then it's the same thing. We're going to have the boundary is, you have to start working towards being self-supporting, which means we're going to set a time frame. And maybe in a month, 3 months, whatever, mom and dad are going to start lowering how much money they're giving, and you're going to start increasing the amount you're participating in. So That's again individual situation. And the last one is individual, taking care of yourself and being, it's behavior stuff. So therapy, psychiatry, 12 steps, it's, we're gonna do the same thing. So three main boundaries: no drugs, no alcohol. You have to become self-supporting, and you got to take care of yourself. And then how we go through each one is individual to each person.
So
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there, I think this fellow, I mean, is there always, if they break the boundary, the same as, I mean, is it always treatment, or is it always, can't live here anymore? Or is there a middle ground this mom wants to kind of know, like the other side, like, if they break this boundary, if they break the drug test or test dirty, like, is that something individualized, or is there what's the kind of other side of breaking a boundary?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I would say I call it plan A and plan B, right? So plan A, we're going to say, look, and then over the next 30 days, um, you gotta you gotta quit using drugs and alcohol. And obviously, if they're smoking weed or anything like that, that's going to be in their body for a long time. But the numbers will start coming down. And so you just make it really clear that over this time frame, this is what we want to achieve. And we're gonna test you on like 3 or 4 times a week regularly, or whatever it looks like. And generally, I really recommend to families that they hire someone like you to administer that and take the family out of the process. Because the families are too emotionally attached to it, and just have a third party that's handling that, and just make it clear. You know, if you're still testing positive for alcohol, no car. No, I mean, no, we'll stop. We'll turn off your phone. Well, no more electronics. I mean, it depends on the age. If they're under 18 at home, over 18 in college, et cetera, et cetera. But you just sit them down and you have the conversation ahead of time and say, look, we love you, but we're changing the way we're handling this now. So going forward, this is the new set of rules. And it's going to start today, and we're going to see how where things are at. You're going to get a drug test. We're going to go from there, and you have X amount of time to get this shaped up. So and again, each person's different, right? Each family, each individual situation is different. If they can get their drug, let's say they're using a lot of cannabis. Okay, great. So if we start seeing the numbers coming down, that means they're quitting. But if the numbers are staying the same or getting higher, that means they aren't, which means then we got to go to plan B. Plan B, now we're talking about an intervention and treatment. But I like to give the person an opportunity to get it together on their own. And if they need therapy, we'll help them get therapy. If they need a sober coach, we'll help them get a sober coach. If they need a tutor for school, we'll get a tutor. We're here to help. We're not here to punish. But if you're going to continue to choose drugs and alcohol, then we're going to have to make some changes.
So,
does that make sense?
It does. It does. So there's another inquiry, kind of getting feedback or advice, or they start the email saying that the treatment center that my daughter is at is against us, and we're the ones paying. Paraphrasing, but so being Mr. Family Director at a facility, and so this kind of home run here, but I do know that it happened. I mean, so it's as simple as this family. I don't know who it was, but there seems to be some lying going on, or dishonesty, or twisting of the truth, what's really going on at home within the client at the treatment center. And it just appears to this said family, and in general, that the treatment center is taking the side of Johnny the addict, and the family's kind of like, WTF, we're the ones paying, and it doesn't seem like our voice, or we're able to correct the truth. How do you, I mean, it's an in-depth process, and that no story is the same, but in general,
no, I get that. I totally understand that question. So there's a couple of different dynamics there, right? Is that, the let's just say the individual therapist that is seeing the client, the client is telling them what a crazy family situation they come from, and mom and dad are drunks, and all my brothers and sisters use drugs, and everyone's just crazy, and my parents pay for it all. And I hear that all the time, you know, all the time. Or they're divorced, and one parent's an angel, and the other parent's complete disaster.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time too. And I'm like, okay, so here's the deal. This is one of the first things they teach you in family therapy school. You never believe just one person. You listen to everyone, and where I work at Jaywalker, we see the family as the client, not the individual. The family is the individual has the problem, but the family. Well, we want to heal the family system, not just one piece of the family system. So, we have the individual who's struggling with his stuff, and he's telling his therapist XYZ. And, in our situation, I'm working with the family, and the family's telling me, oh my God, here's the stuff we've had to tolerate and that sort of thing. So the idea really is a good program is going to heal the entire family system, not just identify one person and say, it's all about you. That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't solve the problem. So if I were this family and the individual therapist at the treatment center and the client were it was a standoff, I would ask to talk to the clinical director or maybe even the CEO or and say, hey, we want to be clear here. We're the ones paying for this, and we want some help. And it feels to me like you're creating something. You're creating a different dynamic. Now, I'm not saying that. Here's one thing I will say: is a lot of times the families I work with, they think they're entitled to know what goes on in the individual client's therapy. They're not. That's their business. So I'm like, no. We're going to stay out of that. That's Johnny's business. But if you're not getting communication, if you're not getting reception, if you're not getting engagement, then yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. Let's change that pattern. And maybe you need to change treatment centers, you know. So that's kind of a long-winded answer to a quick question.
Yeah. So
I do that.
Yeah, it's what keeps the show interesting. It keeps the ratings up.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
So there's we've also had the question where I mean they're a little down on I think they're in the heart of addiction, and so there was a lot of slamming of, so I'll just say in general, you see it all the time. I mean, when you have the client that's insistent that this is his life, this is the life he's comfortable with, and it's obviously surrounded and probably, guided, cycle of addiction, misuse, abuse, mental health, whatever is, these families.
Yep.
It goes to like, do you force someone into treatment, or do you, like my says my son is very content being the misfit that he is, and has no intentions of stopping drugs, even if we send him to treatment.
Well, I mean, he's telling you that because he doesn't want to go to treatment. So, what I would make it clear to him is that's cool. That's your choice. We're still sending you to treatment because we don't want you to die. And we're tired of dealing with it. And by the way, when you're done with treatment, you need to find a place to live, get a job, and start to. If your intention is to go to, if you're like, I'm going to treatment, but I'm just going to keep using drugs when I'm done, cool. That's your choice. But then our choice is to say, you need to find your own place to live. You need to, pay for your own bills, and you're getting out of the nest. So now it's on you, Chief. That's how I would respond to that. No, that's cool. That is your choice. It's not a showdown. We're not playing chicken. It's if you want to continue living like that, that's fine. You're just going to do it somewhere else.
So,
if you want our help, it looks like this.
And within that situation, then it's, what it kind of goes back to the previous question. Your stance on that then is, at least, you guys, the treatment center or whatever, hopefully that has a family program, the family will at least will start getting, help, support, and even if the client, who, believe you me, very few go into treatment saying I want to go to treatment, unless they're running for the law like me or something. But it's not unheard of for said Johnny to go into treatment saying, I'm going to use as soon as I get out of here, and then lo and behold, something clicks. But in this scheme, what you're going to point out is you guys as the family can at least get some relief and some support.
Exactly. And just make it clear that our boundary is that if you're going to choose this lifestyle, you're choosing it without our support. We love you, but we're going to choose not to participate in that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really that simple. I mean,
Yeah.
I know every family wants to make it more. Well, yeah, but you don't understand. I'm like, no, I do understand, and I'm telling you, this works.
So,
yeah.
No, in general, when seeing that I have a family director kind of in front of me is, these families, we get questions all the time about the dysfunction, and you touched on it briefly about, there could be a divorce and separation and kind of the fighting over who's cool, who's not cool. And so, like, how do you, let's just say, for instance, we have a blended family with a divorce and maybe, new marriages or something. Are you, in general, trying to bring everyone together, or is it, heal the individualized families?
Depends on the family system. Some families divorced are still okay with communicating together. Some families aren't, and that's okay. And if they're not, which I would say that's the majority, then we'll do. I'll work with each side, but it's the same message. It's the same message, and that's the whole point: is to get all the different pieces of the family seeing things the same way and acting the same way. So there's not this disruption of, well, if I go to mom, she'll do this. If I go to dad, he'll do that. If I go to my sister or my aunt, my uncle, they'll do that. We got to eliminate that nonsense. It's got to be, the message is clear across the board. And if that's my ultimate goal, is getting the family to, have a very clear message to the individual. We love you. And the answer is no. And as long as everybody can hold the line, then the guy realizes, oh, okay, so everybody's in on this. So this is all a team thing, and, oh, I see you're all a little gang, aren't you? And then it's like, yeah, but we will offer you all the help you need, but we won't support you using drugs and alcohol. It's just that simple. I mean, you have to, but that's where it all starts, right? That's where it all starts. And so if the family's blended, same message, and just work it back. Now, so here's the next question that generally comes from those situations is, yeah, but the other side of the family drinks and does drugs. I'm like, well, okay, got it. I mean, so you're showing me a lot of the family dynamic where you're like, well, those people over there, they're bad, It's like, well, okay, I'm not saying you have to quit drinking or doing drugs, but if you're going to try to support what this person is trying to accomplish, it might be a good idea for you to bring it down tremendously, or not do it with them or in front of them, so we can have more success along those lines.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Well, it's, going back to kind of just being a part of intervention training and just going through the day-to-day life within this industry. I think we're hitting, I mean, it's as simple as people thinking that it's, trying to get the individual to say yes to go to treatment, or, all the work goes into the individual, the addict, alcoholic. And, I've said, 95% of all this success failure hinges on the family itself. It has nothing to do with individuals. So, if you don't get a yes at an intervention, you can get the yes further down the road by having the family implement boundaries and staying the course and so forth. So it's, you said it's that simple. It is that simple. But I think it's,
hard.
We need to, I mean, families need to, and it's the way the family dynamics, like even my family, it's, and I'll personalize it. It's,
Yeah.
families don't want the whole family's, the spotlight to shone on the family, and because then everyone, takes it personal about how they were a dad, how they're, whatever. It has nothing to do with those. It's, today moving forward, how can we help
Hmm.
the family and so forth. And the calls I get more often than not, I get the client and they're staying sober and they'll thank me, but it's the ongoing overwhelming, response, reviews, and feedback are from the families, like the sisters, the brothers, the whoever, and that because not to be long-winded, but I mean, I think another thing that I just had a recent case that just kind of hitting home for that is, how quickly these brothers, siblings, whatever it may be, are overlooked because mom and dad are putting all the time and energy into Jay the addict. And,
Yeah.
meanwhile, the whole family's crumbling because they're only focused on addict.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. And the idea is to really get the family system to unify, not in a punitive way, but in a positive way of, hey, we love you and we want to help you. And we're willing to try this for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and see if you can get it together. But if you can't, then we're going to go to plan B, you know. And plan B is you're going to go to treatment, and that's just how it is. We're not,
Change
we're giving.
sucks, Kevin. Change sucks. Why is change so hard? I
because
mean,
we're because we're lazy, because we're fearful, and we don't like different. I want everything my way. I like things, I mean, I'm still I tell you, I'd still use drugs and alcohol if there weren't any consequences, you know.
amen. Amen to that. Well,
Right.
we do this, try to do this every week. And Family Matters. So if you have any questions, if you're watching replay, put the question in below, or you can private message or whatever the kids are saying nowadays. But we love doing this. So keep the questions, and I still get you probably have answered this question 5 times or 10 times. Well, it doesn't matter. It's a new question to you. So, a new question to you is a new question in general. So keep them coming, and we'll try to stump Kevin to the best of our abilities.
Hey, I look forward to that. This is fun for me.
What's not fun is changing. So you know what?
Uh-uh.
But God bless families, and there is a willingness, and that's what keeps me going. Is these families, I think, get in their own way when it comes to change, but there is willingness. So
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
All righty,
I
Kevin,
agree.
you're off the clock. You
Thanks,
did well.
brother.
You did
Thank you,
well.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Jeez.